We are delighted that you're joining us for another podcast of Wake Up Align, and it is the podcast for chiropractors, where we get to talk about chiropractic lifestyle, and topics of interest. You can contact us through our email, and that is mailbag@amcfamily.com.
Well, welcome back to Wake Up Aligned. Man, excited where we are. Here we are at the basically halfway through the first quarter of the new year, and just phenomenal things taking place inside this Aligned family. But again, this is Tom Owen. I'm not the regular host. My partner in crime, Dr. McMurtry, is off this week, so we're going to let him get a little bit of rest. But you know what? I think you're going to like the guy that I've got filling in with him. He's got a lot more to say, or at least it's worth listening to more than what Dr. McMurtry might share. But I'm picking on him only because he's not here with us today, Snacks. I got Snacks here in the studio with me, my producer, and we can pick on McMurtry since he's not here, can't we?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. I like it too. I like it when someone can't talk back to me. It makes me know that I'm not at home. But here they got the laughter. Dr. Greg Miller is in the studio with us today, so he's joining us on the show. And I think everyone remembers we had him on towards the first part of the year, and I just knew that it wasn't going to be long before we had Dr. Greg back on here. So excited to have you back on, Dr. Greg, and I think we got some good stuff we're going to talk about today.
We ran out of time last time, so I'm ready to go.
Yeah, me too. Like I said, we're just coming out of the first summit of the new year, and man, tell me that we didn't knock it out of the park. And I mean, our members are just awesome.
They're great.
I just love this family, this Aligned family. There's nothing like the AMC Aligned family anywhere in this profession, period. Been around for 27, 28 years now. I've been around in chiropractic, hate to age myself, but I've been active in it for over right at 40 years, and I've never seen anything like this. The unity, but just the depth, obviously the depth and genius of the system itself, but the services and the resources and the people, there's just nothing like it. So, great first summit for those of you that dared not to attend. Man, you're going to get a lashing, but definitely do not miss the next 5. Now, we also have some virtual content coming up in the coming months that everybody can look forward to. We're going to continue to build on that virtual content, but it will never, ever replace that live interaction. I'm telling you, folks, for those of you that are listening that are Aligned members, there are 2 ways that I can statistically show you. Actually, there's 3, but 2 specific that I can statistically show you that will move the needle. I'm talking bottom line needle movement, and that is those that attend all of the summits in a year. It's 100%, isn't it, Dr. Gray? Yeah. It's 100%. Those practices grow. And the second one is the training centers. Utilizing a training center visit, the average doctor inside 8 weeks after they go to a training center visit is 15%. So you can figure it out. If you're doing 40,000 and you're going to grow by $6,000, and that $6,000 stays there and sustains itself, tell me if that's not like the best investment that you could make in making sure that you get to the right certified training center. So, like I said, phenomenal stuff. You got something to add to that?
I was just going to say it's foolish not to. I've heard that from somebody before.
Yes.
I think I write that on my...
Yeah, you've done that a few times over the years, haven't you, Greg?
Perhaps.
Hey, listen, I like to start these shows with some shout outs. A lot of good stuff happening. And, I'm still going through the honorable mentions from 2022. I hadn't even gotten to the stuff that's coming in every week from the mentors as we launch into the new year. We're still wrapping up. I mean, just record after record after record. Can't talk about them enough for 2022. So I'm still going through those. Those are going to be my shout outs. I know you're working with folks every week there, Dr. Greg, but Let's see. I'm going to give some shout outs to, how about Dr. Rachel Beveridge? Works with Dr. Lindsay Johnston.
You bet.
So proud of her. She's come such a long way.
Really
and
has.
she's really, I just don't understand someone that has so much potential, so much drive, but she challenged, she's challenged with that self-identity, that value. She just doesn't see it, but she grew over $200,000. Did you hear that, folks? She grew over $200,000 in collections and by around 1,900 patient visits.
That's just outstanding. I'm so proud of her.
2022, her first full year of practice. So super, super proud of her. So big shout out to her. Somebody else out there very close to my heart has just, she jumps in and just does whatever it's going to take. She also has dealt with a lot of challenges individually, but she keeps overcoming them, and I'm proud of her. So Dr. Sheila Barnett. Mm-hmm. Sheila Barnett grew by over $95,000 just this past year, and she grew her referrals, which is, I know, close to your heart. We might end up talking about, you know what, you can't have Greg in the room, folks, and not eventually talk about referrals. I mean, the guy just burns with that. So she grew her referrals by 31%.
Oh, that's awesome.
Isn't that awesome? And I'm going to give one more, and I could actually give a background to this young lady, Dr. Amanda Green. She's in Albany, Georgia, and she's fairly new to the AMC Align family, just getting out of the gates here the last few months. But I have a long history, whether she knows it or not, with her dad, Dr. Tom Green from Fitzgerald, Georgia.
I remember that name.
Tom Green, just, man, he's just one of my favorites. Anyway, I could take up 30 minutes telling stories with one of my favorites, and that's her dad, Dr. Tom Green. But Dr. Amanda is just getting out of the gates, and she's just in December, so just a month or two ago, went $2,600 over base. So she's just getting started, and that, I'm telling you, mark my word, folks, those of you who are listening, write it down, write that name down, Dr. Amanda Green. You are going to see a lot of her because that practice has a lot of potential. So Dr. Amanda, buckle up, get ready, just keep pressing forward and never stop applying. And I'll assure you that practice has a lot of potential. So super proud of those shout outs. Dr. Greg, do you have any on your roster you want to brag about?
I brag my whole roster, and you know that, Tom, but I think I've been staring at this here, and I really think I want to talk about a guy that has been around AMC for a minute. He is a philosopher. He is a liver. He lives in innate. And he really, truly understands that. And I'm telling you what, here's another doc that the system saved. And I'm talking about Dr. Ed Rack. This guy, he and I started working together a year and a half ago, I suppose. And I think I get as much out of the phone calls, our coaching, our mentor time together as maybe he does, because he's just such a grounded guy. I'm so excited for him. But I just do want to say that in 2022, actually, we've probably been working together for 2 years, because we together, we grew that practice really, really nice in 21. But he and Becky really, really took the bull by the horns in 22. And they ended up having their best year ever in 2022. And that's saying something.
That is saying something.
He's a guy that's been around. And I think when he first found AMC, you brought him to California, didn't you? Or Salt Lake City or something. I don't remember specifically, but he was desperate. It was a desperate situation with a guy that had the ability in his hands that he does, and was missing the pieces to run the business.
For those of you that don't know, Dr. Ed Rack, passionate.
Oh my gosh.
Upper cervical. I mean, so people think that if you have the technique down and the passion down, you're going to be successful. Not the case, right? And we just about lost a phenomenal resource, a priceless resource to the chiropractic profession. He was just about gone, and that was 10, 11 years ago, somewhere in that ballpark, 2011, 12. I might be off a year or two there.
I think it's at least that long.
But I remember that situation. I remember reviewing his questionnaire, what we call the 21 keys, that really gives us an inside look. I remember looking at that and the situation, and he didn't have any time. He only had a few weeks or maybe a couple of months left before he was going to be gone, out of business. And, you know, the AMC family, it's the AMC family, folks. When we call it the AMC family, it's really a family. And we have what's called the Heart Fund, right?
Yep.
That our members, as they grow, they give to this fund, and 100% of all that, any revenue that goes into the Heart Fund ends up helping a chiropractor in need, whether they can't get to their first meeting, or we've had doctors that have had tornadoes, they've had floods from hurricanes, they've lost everything. Any funds that are in that Heart Fund go to these people. And it was the Heart Fund that flew Dr. Ed Rack from Charleston, South Carolina to, I think it was San Diego. I might be wrong on that. I think it's San Diego.
I can't remember for sure. It's west, for sure.
Somewhere out west, right? Yeah. And anyway, the rest is history. And to hear that just warms my heart, because the guy is just so passionate about chiropractic and what he does. And, you know, he does the knee, chest, upper cervical work.
Kale
right?
work. Yep.
Yeah.
Dr. Kale.
So that's great shout out. Proud of him. Anybody else before we start diving into some content?
You know, yeah, I'm gonna mention Dr. Miguel Esquinca. He was one of the last docs that I actually signed when I was in the outreach role and brought on board with AMC aligned. And he opened, and look, these guys, they just have a spot in my heart when they've been abused by chiropractors, because this is another situation. I think the last time we got together, I talked about Eddie Johns and Dr. Berner. Those guys have all been working for the same chiropractor that just abused them. Dr. Miguel, it's a different situation, but you know, he was in that same scenario where he was just working, and you know, at a poverty level, and that's just, he knew there was more, and so he and his office manager Brian took off after this. When they found the AMC system, they took off after it and found a beautiful location. They had a fantastic first year; they really did well. But now that we're well into getting started with this 2023 year, I have tremendous expectations for what I'm going to see coming out of that office by the end of 2023. So I would give them a shout out. Let's see, I'll call it polishing the apple. There's some polish yet for the apple to get that system really shiny in there. And when they start to see that, and they start to recognize that, I know you see them at boot camp, the smiles on their faces, and they're taking it all in, and I'm proud of them, and I can't wait to see where they land at the end of this year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It really is. But I want to tell you, when you tell me these stories, it should make me really happy and joyful. But there's a part of me that really, excuse my language, folks, but pisses me off.
It is, yeah.
Because I am sick and tired. I am sick and tired of watching decade after decade after decade of chiropractors abusing chiropractors and taking advantage of chiropractors, and, you know, chiropractors eating their young. There's no need for it. There's just more than enough. Yet we see it time and time and time again, and we ruin good chiropractors. We need good chiropractors out there, folks. They need a place where they can have a trustworthy mentor that won't abuse them like that. And it really bothers me to the depths of my core when I keep hearing about this, because there's no need for it. There's 335 million, am I right? Somewhere
up around 350, I think.
350 million people in the United States, and there's only 39,000 practicing chiropractors, thereabouts. I might be off by 1,000 or 2, but it's not much. Folks, there's more than enough market. Less than 10% of the marketplace has ever experienced chiropractic care. Mm-hmm. There's no need for this, but yet it keeps going on and on. So I love to hear those stories. So keep telling them to me. because it both makes me happy and excited, but it also motivates me to keep doing what I do.
And the other thing I wanted to make sure to say, and I didn't, is they were responsible, as they referred in Dr. Payne. She got started with us toward the tail end of last year. So, if we're going to end up talking about that today, they've done their part in sharing their story. And it's just so important. I mean, you say that about there being, we're talking about I did the math in my head, 0.009% of the population has ever seen a chiropractor. I mean, it's just crazy. There's so much room and there's so much opportunity. I think about all the pictures I've seen. I know I'm the Gonstead guy, right? That's my background. But when Dr. Gonstead was above I think he was above a medical doctor, and there were steps going up to his office. And there's pictures of people sitting on the steps and lined up down the street to go see Dr. Gonstead. It should be that way outside of every chiropractic office. There should be standing room only in the waiting room. And that's the expectation that I would love to see permeate through AMC and then through Aligned and throughout the entire profession.
There is not a chiropractor in this country or outside this country that cannot find the resources that they need and that they can trust inside this family. And I'm telling our listeners, folks, it's up to you to share, because why would they ever trust anybody? They've got to trust somebody, and they're not going to reach out to folks. They don't know me from Adam. Doesn't matter my heart. Doesn't matter how much my passion is. Doesn't matter how many years goes by. They don't know me. They don't know Greg. They don't know. And why would they trust anyone? It is up to the listeners. If you are feeling any increase in fulfillment, growth, prosperity, if you're identifying differently as a chiropractor, it is your responsibility to go out and find them. They're not going to necessarily reach out to you because they feel like they're on an island. I hear that over and over and over. Everyone feels like they're they're living in their own bubble. They're embarrassed. When you're up against the wall, you don't want everyone looking and knowing that, hey, I'm not where I really wanted to be. It's not where I dreamed to be. They're broken dreams, That's a lot of work. It takes a lot to be a chiropractor.
Oh man.
I mean, you went against the grain. You got my respect just by choosing that path. That's not an easy path. Then you went to the trouble. You got the schooling, the debt, the stress, the pressure, the obligations, all the work. And then you're going to lose out on all of that because someone didn't take the time to share it. So I'm proud of each one that you gave a shout out to. I'm proud of the ones I gave shout out to. And by the way, folks, I've got you can hear the papers. I've got pages and pages. If you're somebody on these papers that I'm looking at, what are you waiting on? There are people hurting right now. They need to know. I don't care if you got to get in your car and drive down the street and find them. Maybe you don't even know them. Maybe they are a graduate, somebody you went to school with. Maybe they are somebody you met at a convention, or maybe they're just somebody at down the street or in another town. Just stop by and talk. Find out what's happening in their life, because they might need to hear what we're doing. Because you're not going to find another place like Aligned. I've been around a long time, and I do not have the time on this show to tell you guys the story. Maybe we'll take a show one day and I'll tell you the background of how hard I fought not to do what I do. I didn't want anything to do with you. Oh my gosh, you said an evil word a while ago. Yeah, I know it's a long word, but it's a 4-letter word in my vocabulary. You used the term management.
I know, I saw you.
I hate that word. Management and consultants are known to take advantage of chiropractors, not take care of them. I don't want anything to do with it. We're a ministry for chiropractors. We provide a customized service for chiropractors. We are here for the chiropractor. The chiropractor is not here for me, right? So I know, look, folks, this is our show. We got to get on with it. But if you can't hear it, there's passion on this in the studio today, right? And we're asking you, and I'm asking you to go out and find that next one. put them in contact with Greg. They can contact, all they have to do is go to amcfamily.com, click one button, book a consultation. They'll be talking to Greg, Dr. Tara, Jeff Reniger. They will get connected with the right person that they need to talk to.
Yeah.
But we do need to get to some type of topic that can benefit somebody in the practice out there today, Greg, before we run out of time. And I thought of a topic. It was yesterday. You and I were texting back and forth, and it was something that you said, and I'm like, that's a topic that about every chiropractor I know deals with, and they have been programmed, brainwashed. I don't know if it happens in a particular class in school, but it seems like it's really become prominent in the last decade or two, how much the chiropractor feels like the salesman, how they constantly feel like they have to sell chiropractic. And it's the last thing that you should be doing. You don't want to sell chiropractic. You want to recommend the best, expect the best, and let the chips fall where they may. But if you're constantly trying to convince, you're chasing.
Mm-hmm.
You're not in the driver's seat. And nowadays, man, there's so many different programs out there. They're adding all these shiny objects. And what's the shiny object? Just something else to sell.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have any problem with decompression. Don't have a problem with it. Probably valid. It's a valid therapy, right? But I'm not going to sell it, right? You shouldn't ever put yourself in a position to where you have to sell your services. And I just know that's something that resonated with you, and I thought, let's take that one for a spin today.
Let's do it. So when I texted that, I was thinking of how many times I'd had a conversation with somebody who was pulling the curtain back and taking a look at Aligned and AMC and thinking, is this something that, I hear good things, and they're watching us online. Maybe they're looking at the Innate series that we work on. We produce that every week. Something comes out new for docs who are or are not members of Aligned AMC. So that content is out there, and we do webinars throughout the year. We do our different live events. Got one coming up in April, so we're getting ready for that. My point is that when they pull that curtain back and they start looking, and if they finally will reach out and have a conversation with us, one of the questions we get is, you don't do those protocols, do you? I hear it, and I just immediately cringe, because I know that's what they're thinking is, I'm going to have to be this robot. I'm going to have to do these protocols and say this stuff. And then that's where they start feeling like they're selling scripting. And it is so far from that. And here's just with the simplest statement that I can make is, we are so different than that. Do we have protocols and procedures? Sure we do. But when you come to an AMC Summit, which you do all 6 of them, right? But when you come to an AMC Summit, you're going to hear the principles that those protocols and those procedures are founded on. And when you understand the reason why we do what we do, and we do it in the order that we do, it changes everything. And it becomes something that, and I've told when I'm teaching, maybe I'm teaching the first report class and talking about how this can't be something that you feel like is being pulled out of you. You have to wrap yourself, your personality around those protocols and around those procedures. So it becomes Dr. Greg Miller talking about, here's the condition you brought us, right? First report, past, present, future, and just everything that's a part of that, and why those things are said the way that they're said and the order that they are. We go back to, why does a patient refer, right? They like us. Well, yeah, we do a lot of things inside your office. I mean, gosh, we could do shows after shows after shows. We could talk about the way that the culture in the office and the way that it feels when they walk in and all those things. But we do the things that we do to help a patient, number one, like us, but then number two, value and respect what we're doing for them. We spent, I think it would have been 20 now. They're they're getting away from me. But we spent a lot of time, I think it was in 2020, talking about helping our doctors become the go-to doctor in their community. And I thought that was so important for our doctors to be able to stand up, even if it was in an empty waiting room, to stand up and say, man, I've got patients that are coming in here because of what they're hearing about what we're doing in here. And patients are talking about us because they value what we offer and they respect us. All of a sudden, that referral thing starts to happen. It starts to blossom. The seed starts to grow. And I can tell you have something you want to say, but it for me, it's the reality that if we can help our patients share their story, their success, then we've done our job, and those referrals are going to start naturally occurring. I remember Dr. Bill Creva. You know Dr. Creva. He's been around for a long, long time. He and I taught a class. Actually, we touched on it in the last meeting. We touched on it, but we were talking about innate, and he was talking about, and I had never thought about this before, but when we think about a patient that we're trying to help them understand the value of what chiropractic is for them and what it's done for them and how it's changed their life. If that stays within the confines of our office, if it never gets out where they're speaking it to family members and they're speaking it to their neighbor or they're talking to somebody at church about that, it limits the benefit that they get from the healing that's coming out of their office. And I know I'm getting into the innate of it here, but it's so important to understand when patients are accustomed to talking about their aches and pains and their hurts, and here's the pills that I'm taking, and here's the other doctor that I went to see. They're living in that, and it becomes part of their innate. It becomes part of who they are. But if we can teach them,
teach to testify,
we can start teaching them to share their story and to really begin to do that. It impacts them not only because there are other people that are finding their way into your office, it gets them healthier. That's the point I'm trying to make. And it's just so important.
And on that line is you're doing that through a form of education, educating the patient.
Yeah.
Now, there's a balancing there, right? Selling chiropractic, pushing chiropractic components versus the educating the patient. But how do you educate a patient? See, so many people, doctors that you and I have worked with over the years, they get it in their head that they've got to cram it down the patient's throat in the first visit or two. So every chiropractor, they walk into consultation, even if they do a consultation, they do it in a form that they've got to get everyone converted to lifetime chiropractic, get the big idea, and they're shoving that down their throat. When if they learn to, I guess, educate through drip by drip by drip through that doctor-patient relationship, which brings up what you're saying is that through the system, through the application of the principles, and all of those components added together, you educate the patient over a period of time to where you're teaching them to testify, and they become your biggest cheerleaders. They're the ones out there. See, if you're constantly trying to be the one selling chiropractic, there's one person doing the selling, right? If you got one salesman in the field, right, and you're selling to every patient that's in front of you and you're pushing them to refer, or selling them this product or what, there's one salesman in the room, right? Why would I ever want to be? First of all, I don't want to be a salesman. That's not my gig. But if I learn how to create thousands of salesmen that are going out and talking to a minimum of 7 people, I think the statistics, tell me if I'm wrong, Dr. Greg, but I think the survey says that the average patient that's qualified patient that's had that experience is going to tell good experience or bad experience. Either one, folks, pay attention to me. The statistics stand true on either way. Good experience or bad experience, the average patient or average person is going to tell 7 people. So when you're letting them express the right things and you're teaching them to testify, they're going to go out and tell 7 people. So if you process, let's say 300 new patients in a year's time, right? That's 25 a month, whatever that would be. And whatever look, we don't have time. We're running out of time here on this show, closing percentages and so on. But all 30 came in your door. Now, I didn't say how many you kept. Doesn't matter about your closing ratio or anything. 30 came in the door. They had some type of experience. They're going to go out, those 30 or 300 are going to go out and tell 7 people what that experience was. That means there's 2,100 people in your community that either have something positive to say about you, that they've heard about you, or they have something negative. And I assure you, when we circle it back to what you're talking about, when you're building those components up to teaching to testify, utilizing those principles, you're creating the referral culture that we were talking about on the last podcast. And people are wondering, well, how do you get referrals? Well, you educate your patient, but it's not necessarily educating the patient, shoving it down their throats, chiropractic. It's the components of learning, developing the patient and the doctor-patient relationship to where then they go out and they have an expectation to share. And we place that, and then we ask them for the referral, right? But don't forget about it. You're creating your messengers in your patient culture or in your practice culture. They're becoming the megaphones in the community.
Yeah, they're boots on the ground, right? Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, and you're absolutely right. And there's so much to this. You know, and I think about all of the pieces of the system, whether it's the 5-point office visit, you know, we talk about educating, tremendous opportunity to do that. You've got, you mentioned the 10 visit checklist and, you know, building. I mean, that's a huge referral generating tool. You've got the condition of the week board. I mean, I don't know how many times I ended up having conversations in practice about things because patients are very narrow and focused, right? If they're coming into my office back in the day and they have a migraine headache, that's all that matters. They're just desperately trying to find a solution to their migraine headache. Well, as they start getting better, all of a sudden they start seeing, well, wait a minute. Every time I come in here, there's a kid in here, or there's grandparents over there. And they start to realize that there's more happening in your office than just migraine headaches. It's not their fault. It's just they're so consumed by it. So we have to do the steps. And I call that easy. When you have a system that's based on principle, it is easy. It doesn't mean you don't have to get down to it and actually do it. You've got to do a patient orientation class. We talk about educating. You have to do it. And my friend Ed Rack, Dr. Rack, we talked about him at the beginning of the call. If you don't come to his POC, you are dismissed from his office, period. It's black and white. So anyway, I know we're out of time.
Like I said, we're out of time, and then we could just keep going on and on and on and on. But, you know, another component that you just mentioned, that relationship, the 5-point office visit, I hate the name of the 10 visit checklist, all those components, patient compliance, all these referral mechanisms and all that only works when the patient's around.
Very true.
So if you're going to stay on the front end and you're just going to keep selling chiropractic and they're going to go in and out, and you're going to continue with a 6 visit, 8 visit, 10 visit, 12 visit PVA, guess what? You're never going to have the opportunity to develop your soldiers, your boots on the ground. See, that takes time to develop what you just said, the lady that came in with the migraines, right? Well, it's only over time that her eyes start opening up to, there's other things going on. And then the components or the pieces of the puzzle that trigger the question at the right time, which what you mentioned was the condition of the week board. That's why the system, we keep talking about principles and so on. Folks, I'm going to end it right here. We'll wrap this up. It's like a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. You can get 990 pieces together. That's a lot of work to get all that together, right? Yet, the last time it was put together by the kids, they lost 10 pieces down in the cushions of the couch or whatever, and they're long gone. You get 990 pieces together, 10 pieces are missing. Where do your eyes go to?
The missing pieces.
The missing pieces.
Absolutely.
Is the picture complete?
Nope.
Is it effective? That's what we're talking about here, folks. Creating the culture takes time to develop what we're talking about. But then it's a natural occurrence, and it is easy it's profound. It's simple, but deep and profound. Dr. Greg, can I just tell you, I really enjoy our times together, man. We've been like this, folks, for decades. You put me and Greg in a room or in a truck driving to Atlanta or something, we're gonna have some great conversations. So I hope everybody got something out of this show. I really enjoyed it. And I don't end these shows without expectations. You know what? We're about halfway through the first quarter of the new year. What are you doing different? And are we going to build on what we celebrated in 2022? You got to be at the 6 summits. You got to be at the 6 summits. You got virtual content coming up this year, Dr. Greg's overseeing. You got a responsibility to go out and find the next doctor in need. You heard that. It's your responsibility. I expect that. I'm not begging you. I'm not selling you. I'm expecting that. It's our responsibility. You got certified training centers. Get in contact with your mentor and say, I want an expectation this year. I'm going to 2 of them. What do I have to do it? So folks, the resources are there. CA coaching, the Apex program. There's so much available to you. Plug in and make this year the best year ever. I love you. I appreciate you. I look forward to talking to you on the next show. Until then, live abundantly.
Follow our show. You can share it with friends, of course. And we'd love for you to contact us at mailbag@amcfamily.com. In addition, you're always invited to attend or join us at a summit. Of course, registration is required. And we would love for you to check out the loads of free content we provide to social media every single week. Until next time.